Let me take you to the last birthday I ever celebrated with my family. At least the version of them I thought I knew. Picture it, a private dining room lit by golden chandeliers, a long mahogany table with 12 meticulously set plates, and a 3-tiered strawberry cream cake with my name, Delaney, piped in delicate gold frosting. 32 years old. Career stable. Marriage? Decent enough, or so I told myself. Sister? Complicated, but close. The kind of close where you always forgive, even when something in your gut says not to. But what happened that night rewired me. It shook the core of what I understood about betrayal, loyalty, and most of all, silence. Before I go further, if you're new here, I'd love for you to subscribe to this channel. It helps us keep sharing these real, emotional, and sometimes unbelievable stories with the world. Your support genuinely fuels our voice. Thank you. Now back to the scene. My husband's hand rested gently on my lower back as he pulled out my chair. Happy birthday, Delaney, Marcus whispered with that perfect smile. The one that made my mother melt and my coworkers swoon at office parties. If only I'd known what it really meant that he was trying too hard that day. Across the table sat my sister, Bianca. Gorgeous in a smug, overconfident way, she'd always been the golden child. A marketing director with a flair for dramatic entrances, she'd once shown up to a family barbecue in a silk gown. Today was no exception. She wore a crimson dress, low-cut and loud, with a grin that didn't match the occasion. Everything about her energy felt off. Too excited. Like a magician about to pull a rabbit out of the wrong hat. Dinner started with polite conversation. My mom talked about her yoga retreat. My dad made the same old dad jokes about turning 30 again. Marcus toasted me sweetly, clinking his glass and talking about many more birthdays together. But every time I looked at Bianca, she was vibrating, like she couldn't hold the weight of her own secret. I should have known. I did know. Halfway through dessert, as I cut a slice of my cake and handed it to my cousin's daughter, Bianca tapped her glass with a fork. "Can I have everyone's attention?" she said, rising with both hands cradling her flat stomach. "I have something special to announce, something that makes this birthday dinner even more meaningful." And in that moment, I swear, the entire room paused. I felt Marcus shift in his seat beside me. "I'm pregnant," Bianca said, beaming. No one clapped. Not yet. I blinked. "Congratulations," I managed, lips stiff. "Who's the lucky?" "It's Marcus," she said simply. "We're expecting." It didn't crash all at once. My brain didn't allow it. It tried to process the syllables out of order. "We're," Marcus, expecting, as if they could belong to someone else. The room fell into chaos. My mom dropped her fork. My cousin gasped. My dad stood like he was about to faint. But me? I sipped my wine. Calmly. Because they didn't know what I knew. What Marcus forgot I knew. 3 months prior, while organizing our insurance files, I'd found his post-operative paperwork from the urologist. A vasectomy. Done 2 years ago. Never reversed. We hadn't talked about kids since then. He said he wasn't ready, and I respected it. But apparently, he had moved on, from our marriage and from the truth. I looked at Bianca, then at Marcus. I smiled. "That's funny," I said. "You're sure it's Marcus's baby?" Bianca's lips curled. "Of course. We've been together since last fall." "You sure?" I asked, louder now. "Because Marcus had a vasectomy in 2021. Silence. I let it settle. Let it crawl over them like a fog. Bianca blinked. "What?" "Oh yes," I said, turning to Marcus, who had gone pale as ash. "Tell her. Tell everyone here how you swore children weren't part of your future, and that you wanted control over your own body." The exact words, remember? Bianca's hand dropped from her stomach. "No," she said. "No," he said. "He told me." Marcus stood, face twitching. "Delaney, sit down." "I am sitting," I said coldly. "You, however, should probably lie down. You look like you're about to faint." Gasps, murmurs, a broken glass. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it. My father, usually mild-mannered, looked like he was restraining himself from leaping across the table. "I didn't want to ruin your birthday," Bianca whispered. "But you did," I said. "Or tried to. You made it about you. And you did it with a lie. If you were smarter, You'd know to pick someone who's actually capable of getting you pregnant. I stood, lifting my wine glass. To betrayal, I said. To sisters who don't read medical records. And to husbands who think secrets stay buried. Then I left. Walked out of my own birthday dinner, down the velvet-lined stairs of the restaurant, and into the icy December night with the grace of a woman whose dignity couldn't be purchased or stolen. The fallout came fast. Texts from Bianca. You lied. You set me up. Call me. Texts from Marcus. It's not what it looks like. Please let's talk. I was going to tell you. They didn't matter. Because I had a plan. Not rage. Not vengeance. But something better. Documentation. Receipts. Exposure. They used my birthday to try and humiliate me? I'd use their choices to cleanse my life of lies. Publicly. Quietly. Irrefutably. Because unlike them, I didn't lie to win. I told the truth. And sometimes, that's the sharpest weapon of all. I didn't cry that night. I wish I could say I did, that I collapsed in my bedroom in a mess of mascara and heartbreak, sobbing into designer pillowcases. That's what they expected, probably. But grief didn't show up like a storm. It showed up like paperwork. Spreadsheets. A checklist on my kitchen counter titled, What to do after discovering your sister is pregnant with your husband's imaginary baby. I stared at it the next morning with my robe tied too tight and coffee in a chipped mug I refused to throw away. There were already 5 items on the list. Freeze joint bank account. Remove Marcus from Netflix account. Petty, but therapeutic. Email divorce attorney. Yes, I had one on standby. Contact Marcus's urologist. Double confirm that vasectomy status. Change locks. Because when you're betrayed that deeply, the smartest revenge isn't loud. It's administrative. Marcus showed up 2 days later. Unannounced. Naturally. I heard the gate camera buzz and walked to the intercom with a calm I didn't feel. It's me, he said, like that was supposed to mean something. I pressed the talk button. And, Delaney, can we please talk? You're 2 days late and 1 child short of a reasonable excuse. He stared into the camera. Please. I need to explain. So I let him in. Not out of kindness. But because I wanted to watch him scramble. He stepped into the foyer like it still belonged to him, like the hardwood remembered his shoe pattern. I crossed my arms. If you're here to beg, do it quickly. I have lunch with my lawyer. Delaney, he started. Bianca said some things that weren't supposed to come out that way. I never meant. Stop, I said. Do you even know what vas deferens are, Marcus? He blinked. What? You had a vasectomy. You're sterile. And I have the documentation. His face drained. I was going to tell her. But instead, you let her announce it at my birthday dinner. My dinner, Marcus. You let her claim a fantasy pregnancy built on your lies, in front of our entire family. She said she wanted to wait until after. Bianca has never waited for anything in her life. And you? You were complicit. He rubbed the back of his neck. I never thought it would get that far. I laughed. You didn't think your affair with my sister would get complicated when you physically couldn't get her pregnant? It was a mistake, he said softly. No, I said, stepping closer. A mistake is forgetting your anniversary. This is an operation. Planned, hidden, executed. He dropped his gaze. Get out. Delaney, come on. I opened the front door. He hesitated. I said out. And if you need me to say it through an attorney, I will. Bianca wasn't as bold after that. She didn't call. She texted. Screenshots. Apologies. Long paragraphs starting with, I never meant for it to happen this way. The last one said, I didn't know about the vasectomy. I thought he was serious about leaving you. I replied. He was serious about leaving fertility behind. You two are the dumbest love story ever written. I blocked her. But cutting them off wasn't enough. I needed to reset my life. So I did what any wronged woman with time, money, and a talent for organization would do. I made a plan for rebirth. I took a month off work. My boss Karen, yes, her real name, gave me a knowing nod when I asked. Revenge vacation? she asked. Restorative sabbatical, I corrected. I booked a beachside cabin. I hired a contractor to repaint every room Marcus ever touched in my house. I digitally shredded our entire shared photo archive. And I finally pulled the trigger on the secret Instagram account I'd created but never used. At After Delaney. The bio read, rebuilt, redressed, regret-proof. 1 week into this reinvention, I got a call from my aunt. Sweetheart, she said, voice laced with equal parts judgment and disbelief, you need to see this. She sent me a video. Bianca. Crying. On TikTok. Caption. My sister turned our family against me over a pregnancy mix-up. She was painting herself as the victim. Said she was misled, manipulated. Said she loved Marcus and had only wanted to share her joy. And yes, she claimed she didn't know about the vasectomy. But what caught my eye was her subtle swipe at me. She always had to win, even if it meant ruining someone else's happiness. Oh no, Bianca wanted an audience? She forgot I work in PR. So I posted. Not a video. Not a rant. A screenshot. One that showed Marcus's urologist letter, dated and signed. Caption. Facts don't care if it's your sister. Biology doesn't bend to betrayal. Clinking glasses. It got 200K likes in 4 hours. The comments? Brutal. Mic drop. Girl, you win. Tell her to keep the fantasy, baby. Bianca's video? Deleted within the day. Marcus? Silent. My family? Torn. But most stayed neutral. A few, like my mom, called to say, we never liked the way she looked at him. Too late. I wasn't seeking justice anymore. I was documenting it. 3 weeks later, I hosted my real birthday party. Just a few close friends. Candles. Laughter. We toasted to emotional real estate and never ignoring red flags again. And I made one quiet vow. To never again second-guess my gut. Because the calmest revenge is the one served not with fire, but clarity. And I had never seen the truth so clearly. By the end of week 3, I had learned 3 things. Betrayal doesn't always come with a warning. Family will excuse anything if it saves them from discomfort. When you hand people the truth, they'll still ask if you're exaggerating. Bianca hadn't posted again after deleting her little viral pity party. But I wasn't foolish enough to think she'd gone quiet out of shame. She was plotting. The thing about people like my sister is, they always need a stage. If they can't be the bride, they'll try to outshine her dress. If they can't be the center of joy, they'll settle for being the center of drama. And that next stage? Apparently, it was our cousin Melissa's baby shower. Yep. Nothing says, perfect venue to stir drama, like a celebration of someone else's pregnancy. I got the invite a week in advance. Bianca's name wasn't on the list of organizers, but I knew better. Melissa and Bianca were inseparable during childhood, and even if she wasn't hosting, she'd make her presence loud. Still, I RSVP'd. Not to cause trouble, but because I had receipts to collect. And dignity to wear like a designer dress. The day of the shower, I showed up in a pale blue silk jumpsuit, hair freshly blown out, heels that whispered money but didn't scream it. Subtle elegance. Bianca was already there. Of course. Wearing white. To a baby shower. I don't know if she was trying to look like the Virgin Mary or a real housewife of regret, but she smiled when she saw me like we were sorority sisters reuniting at brunch. She made a beeline across the room. "Lainey," she squealed, hugging me before I could dodge it. "You look healthy." "Ah, that kind of hug." "I eat clean," I replied. "Try it sometime." She laughed, tight and fake. "So good to see you. You've been off the radar." Sometimes silence speaks louder than attention-seeking TikToks. Her jaw twitched. "Oh," she said, brushing imaginary lint off her sleeve. "That was just a misunderstanding. You know how people love to twist things online." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean how you twisted things online?" She dropped the smile. "Look, I didn't know about the vasectomy, okay? Marcus lied to both of us." I stared at her. "You're not upset he lied to you. You're upset I told everyone." She didn't deny it. "I'm pregnant, Delaney," she said after a pause. "Regardless of how it happened, there's a baby coming. And I need support. It took everything in me not to laugh. Support? From me? She looked wounded. You're my sister. No, I said calmly. You're the woman who used my birthday as a launchpad for your affair. And who tried to frame me as bitter when I didn't fall apart for your narrative. She took a step back. I didn't expect this from you. That's the problem, I said. You never expected me to stand up for myself. And now that I have, you're playing the pregnancy card to avoid accountability. I don't need your approval, she snapped. Good, I said, turning toward the refreshment table. Because I'm fresh out. I thought that would be the last of it. But 3 days later, I received a cease and desist letter. From Bianca's lawyer. Claiming I'd defamed her with my Instagram post and irreparably damaged her reputation. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my chamomile tea. Reputation? The woman paraded around with a fake paternity claim and now wanted to sue me for correcting the record? Please. I called my lawyer, Asha. She's the kind of woman who reads contracts for fun and once destroyed a man in court with nothing but a binder and an eyebrow raise. She read the letter. Then she laughed. This is cute, she said. I'll respond with facts. Within 24 hours, Bianca's lawyer received our packet. It included medical confirmation of Marcus's vasectomy, screenshots of Bianca's now deleted TikTok, a notarized statement from Marcus confirming the timeline, a warning, any further harassment would result in actual legal action. We never heard from them again. But the damage had been done. To them. Their public image? In shambles. Their secret? Now permanent internet folklore. My family? Still split. But the important people, my friends, my colleagues, even some of Marcus's former clients, reached out with quiet support. One text said, "This wasn't drama. This was strategy." Another, "The way you kept your composure? Iconic." But the one that meant the most came from my old mentor Dana, who had taught me everything about branding in our early years. She wrote, "You turned betrayal into a brand lesson. You reminded us all that quiet power is still power. Proud of you." And that settled something deep inside me. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted reinvention. I wanted my story, not theirs, to be the one that lasted. So I pitched a piece to a major women's publication, When Family Betrayal Goes Viral, Reclaiming Power Without Losing Grace. They accepted it. It went live within a week. And the emails started pouring in. Your story saved me from staying in a toxic marriage. My sister slept with my ex too. I thought I was alone. Thank you for showing us that dignity isn't weakness. I've been Delaney. I just didn't have your words. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something stronger than rage. I felt seen. Bianca? Last I heard, she moved out of town. Marcus quietly sold his half of the business we built together and vanished into startup oblivion. Me? I booked a trip to Florence. Because when you survive betrayal, you don't just rebuild. You redefine. And every cobblestone in Italy felt like a step further away from the woman who once hosted birthday dinners for people who couldn't wait to humiliate her. Now, I host dinners for myself. And I invite only the worthy. Florence was supposed to be the end of the story. After all the lies, the shattered trust, the screenshots, and the deleted TikToks, I booked a one-way flight to Italy with nothing but 2 suitcases and a fresh passport. My therapist called it radical self-renewal. I called it escape but make it healing. For a few precious weeks, I forgot about Marcus. I forgot about Bianca and her imaginary baby bump. I strolled cobblestone streets, drank espresso under orange umbrellas, and sketched outlines for a memoir I wasn't sure I'd ever publish. People think peace is loud. That it shows up with fireworks and affirmations. But mine came in soft ways. In the morning light that filtered through lace curtains. In the elderly woman who gifted me roses after I helped her cross the street. In the way I could sit alone at dinner and feel full without a second glass of wine, or anyone across from me. I even stopped checking their socials. Because healing isn't forgetting what someone did. It's remembering it without flinching. I was almost ready to return home when fate sent a little reminder that karma isn't linear. I was browsing ceramics in a tiny market near the Ponte Vecchio when I heard a very American, very familiar voice behind me. Laney. It was Marcus, wearing sunglasses, and a limp expression like he had just seen a ghost, or karma in heels. I froze. Not out of fear. Not even shock. But amusement. "You're stalking me now?" I asked, half laughing. He lifted his hands. "I didn't know you were here. I swear." "Then what are you doing here?" He hesitated. "Investor conference. A friend told me this place had great artisan work." He looked down at the clay bowl I had in my hands, then at my face. "You look good," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "You look dehydrated." He chuckled, weakly. "I deserve that." "You deserve worse," I said. "But this isn't a revenge scene. I'm busy." He stepped closer. "Can I say something?" "One thing." I rolled my eyes. "You always were better at talking than listening. Go ahead." Marcus took a long breath. "You didn't just win. You elevated. You never trashed me publicly. Not really. You didn't post rants. You didn't call my clients. You didn't try to burn everything down. And somehow, you still ruined us." I stared at him. "I didn't ruin us, Marcus. You handed me the ashes." He blinked. "I keep thinking about what we had. The good parts." I stayed quiet. "And I think about how I wrecked all of it because I was stupid and selfish and couldn't handle your light. It made me feel less." There it was. The truth I never expected to hear. And somehow, it didn't fill me with triumph. It just confirmed what I'd always known. I smiled. "Then I'm glad I burned so bright." He nodded. "For what it's worth, I hope you never dim for anyone again." I picked up the bowl, walked past him, and said over my shoulder, "Neither should you." Back home, I didn't tell anyone about the Florence run-in. Not because it was some deep secret, but because it didn't matter. It was just closure wearing linen and sunglasses. Instead, I poured my energy into something more permanent. The memoir. Originally, it was just an outline. But now, it had chapters. A title. Birthday Confessions. When the cake isn't the only thing cut. My agent. Yes, I had one now. Loved it. She said it read like Eat, Pray, Love, if Elizabeth Gilbert had burned down a table mid-dinner party. The day we signed with a publisher, I treated myself to cake. Alone. In the same bakery where Marcus once forgot my birthday and tried to pass off a day-old eclair as a gift. Poetic justice comes in layers. Bianca's name never made the book. Not out of kindness, but because I refused to give her another spotlight. And in doing so, I won a different kind of victory. When the memoir launched 6 months later, it hit the bestseller list within the week. I got invitations to speak. Podcasts. Panels on emotional resilience and rebuilding identity after betrayal. Women I'd never met came up to me in airports and coffee shops saying, "You told my story." And I realized something. I hadn't just survived betrayal. I'd capitalized on it. But the wildest part? The baby. Turns out, Bianca really was pregnant. Just not with Marcus's child. Apparently, she had been dating someone else, a quiet accountant named Brandon, on the side. And when the timelines got blurry, she decided Marcus's name had more shock value. Bianca always was theatrical. But even I didn't expect what happened next. Brandon filed for full custody before the baby was born. Claimed prenatal manipulation. Emotional instability. He had text messages and witness accounts, including the viral birthday video someone had filmed and leaked. I didn't gloat. Publicly. But privately? I opened a bottle of wine and whispered, "May the consequences teach her what my words never could." As for me, I was thriving. New apartment. New circle. New standards. Men flirted. I flirted back. But I no longer felt the need to prove anything. Because peace isn't found in replacement. It's found in recognition. Recognition of your worth, your boundaries, and the moment you realize the people who hurt you no longer define the most interesting parts of your life. And when that happens, that's the moment your story shifts from revenge to rebirth. By the time the book tour started, I was no longer the woman whose sister slept with her husband. I was Delaney Hart, best-selling author, guest speaker, CEO of my own narrative. And yet, even as the world clapped for my rebirth, I knew something was brewing behind the curtain. Because people like Bianca never exit stage left without planning their comeback. I just didn't expect her to show up. With a mic of her own. It was a quiet Tuesday when it happened. I was having lunch with my publicist, Maya. Tuna tartare, a crisp Sauvignon Blanc, and the comfort of knowing I was far from the woman I used to be, when her phone lit up. She stared. Blinked. Then turned it around. A YouTube video. Title: The Truth About My Sister's Revenge Story, What She Didn't Tell You. Uploaded 45 minutes ago. Already climbing past 70,000 views. Oh no, I whispered. Maya exhaled. Do you want to watch it? I stared out the window. No, I said. I want to control the narrative. But curiosity is a persistent beast. That night, in my pajamas with my hair up and my laptop warm against my legs, I watched. Bianca sat in a softly lit room with a baby stroller slightly in frame. She wore a washed-out beige cardigan and the face of someone who had rehearsed sincerity. She called herself the misunderstood sibling. Said she had been vilified by the media. That I had embellished details for dramatic effect. And most galling of all? She implied the vasectomy had reversed. I paused the video. Rewound. I'm not saying he lied. I'm saying, sometimes the body does strange things. Who's to say what really happened? Oh, sweet mercy. I slammed the laptop shut. There it was. The next phase of her damage control. Plausible deniability sprinkled with victimhood. Maya texted a minute later. Don't respond yet. Let it burn itself out. People will see through it. But I knew people. Some would. Others would cling to the version that made them feel better about betraying their own sisters. I needed a counterplay. Not a counterattack. A masterstroke. It came 3 days later. I was hosting a Q&A panel in Chicago when someone asked, "What would you say to your sister if she was in the audience today?" The room went still. I could feel the breath holding. I smiled. I'd say thank you, I said. Murmurs. Raised eyebrows. Because without her, I wouldn't have discovered my threshold. I wouldn't have found my voice. I wouldn't have learned that silence isn't strength. Speaking is. And more importantly, I wouldn't have learned how to build a life that doesn't require anyone else's apology. Applause. The kind that starts slow, then swells. I waited for it to settle. And no, I don't regret telling the truth. I don't regret protecting myself. What I would regret, I said, meeting the eyes of a woman in the front row who was blinking away tears, is letting betrayal define me forever. After that, I expected Bianca to go quiet again. She didn't. She doubled down. She went on a podcast. She started a blog. She shared photos of her baby, who looked nothing like Marcus, mind you, and titled one of her posts, "How I Survived Sisterly Cruelty." It was audacious. And exhausting. But I didn't respond. Not because I couldn't. But because she wasn't worth the words anymore. Instead, I partnered with a nonprofit that supports women recovering from emotional abuse and betrayal. We hosted workshops, healing retreats, and storytelling circles. I heard tales far worse than mine. Women abandoned while pregnant, conned by family members, ghosted after cancer diagnoses. And yet, every one of them had risen. Like me. We weren't just survivors. We were architects of after. Months passed. My second book was in the works. A hybrid, part memoir, part guide to reclaiming your narrative. My editor loved the working title. Unfollowed. How to Walk Away from People You Once Loved. I was thriving. But then I got a call. From Marcus. Blocked number. New phone. Same voice. "Delaney," he said. "It's about Bianca." I nearly hung up. "She's sick," he said. "The baby's fine." But Bianca collapsed at work. They found a tumor, cervical. "She's having surgery." I didn't say anything. "She asked for you," he added. "You're her emergency contact." I laughed. Cold. Bitter. She had all those platforms to talk about me, but no one to call in real life? "Please," he said. "Even if you don't care, she's scared." I hung up. But I couldn't sleep. Because once, a long time ago, Bianca and I shared a bed as kids. We'd whisper secrets under glow-in-the-dark stars on our ceiling. We knew each other's dreams before we had adult versions to ruin them. So I went. Not for her. For me. I walked into that hospital room like a visitor, not a sister. Her face was pale. The strong, performative woman from the internet was gone. What remained was just Bianca. She looked up and didn't say anything. I'm not here to forgive you, I said. And I'm not here to fix you. I know. I just didn't want to regret not showing up. That's your legacy, not mine. She nodded slowly, then whispered. I was jealous. Of everything. You had the light. I just wanted some. You could have borrowed it, I said. But you tried to steal it. Tears slid down her cheeks. No sobbing. No dramatics. Just truth leaking from someone who finally had no script left. And in that moment, I saw the full picture. Not just the villain, but the broken woman behind the mask. I didn't hug her. But I didn't leave, either. I sat in that chair for an hour. And when I walked out, I felt something unexpected. Not closure, but clarity. They say forgiveness is more for you than the other person. I say that's a polite way of telling people to suppress their rage and get over betrayal because the world's too impatient to sit with truth. So no, I didn't forgive Bianca. Not that day. Not in that sterile hospital room where our pasts floated in the air between us like leftover arguments. But I didn't hate her anymore either. And that, surprisingly, was freedom. In the weeks after her surgery, things shifted. Bianca was quieter online. No blogs. No tearful TikToks. No inspirational reels about overcoming the sister who destroyed her. Just silence. I don't know if it was humility or exhaustion. Maybe both. But in that quiet, something else rose. My second book. Unfollowed, launched with less fanfare than the first, but more substance. It was the book people passed to friends after betrayals. The one left dog-eared on nightstands, with paragraphs underlined in red ink and coffee stains near the chapter titled, Reclaiming Your Story Without Their Permission. It wasn't a bestseller. It was a lifeline. And it changed more lives than I could count. One of those lives was mine. Because in writing it, I finally did the thing I'd danced around for over a year. I looked in the mirror and admitted how much of myself I'd lost trying to hold a family together that had always been held by silence. Bianca wasn't the beginning of the betrayal. She was the exclamation point. The betrayal began in childhood, when I was always the responsible one. The one expected to share, to sacrifice, to smooth things over. And Bianca? The emotional one. The wild card. The one we made space for, even when she exploded in the middle of Christmas dinner or skipped our parents' anniversary trip without warning. So when she slept with my husband? The shock wasn't in her doing it. The shock was in me finally having the audacity to draw a line. To say, no more. And not back down when it got uncomfortable. That's what this story really was about. Not just infidelity. Or betrayal. Or the world watching as I announced a vasectomy in front of a lemon cake. It was about learning that boundaries are only as powerful as your willingness to enforce them. Months passed. I was invited to speak at a women's leadership summit in London. It was elegant, well-funded, and filled with women who wore ambition like perfume, intoxicating and bold. I stood at the podium, looking out at 400 faces, and told them what I now knew to be the gospel truth. You are not required to destroy yourself for the comfort of people who refuse to grow. They stood. They clapped. But the most surreal moment came after, during the book signing. A young woman, maybe 22, handed me her copy of Unfollowed. She said nothing. Just slid a folded note into the book and walked away. I opened it that night in my hotel. It said, My sister slept with my fiancé 2 months ago. My family told me to forgive her. Your story saved me from forgiving too soon. Thank you for being the voice I needed. I cried. Not because I was sad, but because I finally understood the point of all this. It wasn't revenge. It was resonance. One morning in May, I got a call from my mother. Not to ask about my tour. Not to apologize for anything. But to tell me Bianca had moved. She's in Colorado now, she said, like it was the weather forecast. She wants to start fresh. I nodded into the phone, even though she couldn't see me. She said she might reach out, my mother added cautiously. I hope she doesn't, I replied. There was a long silence. Then, with the smallest amount of hesitation, my mother said, "You turned out stronger than we deserved." And then she hung up. I stared at the phone. Somewhere between apology and acknowledgement, that's where our family stood now. And honestly, that was enough. The last page of my second book was a letter. Not to Bianca. Not to Marcus. Not even to my readers. It was to the woman I used to be. The one who stood there at her birthday dinner, wide-eyed and stunned, while her sister took a microphone and her husband's arm and declared war with a baby bump and a lie. The letter read, "You survived that night, but more importantly, you survived everything that came after. You didn't lose your dignity. You found your voice. And you used it. Loudly. Clearly. Fearlessly. You walked through fire and didn't become smoke. You became heat. You became light. And I will never let anyone dim you again." I closed the book, slid it onto the shelf next to the first one, and then I went outside. No phone. No email. Just me. A walk. A woman in her own story. Not waiting for an apology. Not needing another headline. Just alive. And whole.